Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Scumdog's Kennel. I'm your host, Chris Williams. And tonight we're going to be looking at astral travel, the mysteries of such a weird and strange phenomenon, and we're going to have some fun tonight. So sit back and enjoy yourselves. The mysteries of such a I sound like I'm base. I just drank some water, folks, so that's why I sound like this. Well, you get the idea. Well, either way, let me go off and show some artwork off from my own upcoming graphic novel, Scumdogs. By the way, folks, how you enjoying my show? Looking pretty good, huh? So, here's my extreme 90s cover for my graphic novel, Scumdogs, okay? This cover I did to harken back to the comic books of the 90s, the comic books we all know and love. Now, the Scumdogs, the title characters, they're supervillains or parodies of villains from 80s cartoons. They want to take over the universe. You'll see a lot of characters in this book that will remind you of when you were a kid watching Saturday morning cartoons. Now, the Scumdogs, as I said, are villains. They used to be pro athletes who used to compete in sporting events held with superhuman athletes as the competitors. See, in the future, thanks to transhumanism and basically being able to genetically engineer yourself or basically augment your body with cybernetics, people have become superhuman. And one of the pastimes these people have, who are basically immortal, is by basically transforming themselves into monsters and competing in sporting events for money. They're called scum and dogs because they lost their humanity and became monsters for money. They wanted to be rich and famous. But what happens when so you get the idea, they're not nice people. But what happens when they get banned from sports? The Scumdogs decide to take over the universe. They're led by Deathmug. He's the purple guy with the metal mask over here. He's based on various villains from 80s cartoons. You can see it in the way he was designed. Well, yeah. You can see that he has a skull for a face, much like Skeletor from He-Man, and that his face is also a metal mask, much like Cobra Commander's is, the main villain from G.I. Joe. Deathmug is an arrogant dictator who wants to rule the universe. His ego is so huge, it's just basically your classic Saturday morning cartoon villain, only turned up past 1,000%. You can see him fighting his arch enemy Buick Starpoon, the guy with the pink pompadour hair over there in the green and white uniform. Buick Starpoon is basically him and his team, the Wild Rangers, which Buick Starpoon leads into battle against the Scumdogs. They're basically G.I. Joe parodies crossed over with Star Wars and Star Trek characters. Buick Starpoon is an arrogant, overblown military maniac. He's one of those military type characters who never admits he's wrong, never listens to anyone's opinion, even if it could help him, and always gets him and his team up over their heads in trouble when they're fighting the Scumdogs. Usually they get out of their trouble by usually blowing everything up. Usually that, even though they win the day, as I said, they blow everything up, and usually that basically causes him and his team to basically be reprimanded by their superior officers because, they were hired to save the day from the Scumdogs, not destroy it. And as I said, Buick Starpoon is an arrogant, overblown, egotistical maniac. But he's the leader of the Wild Rangers, and he fights the Scumdogs. And the Wild Rangers, as I said, are basically a parody of G.I. Joe and Star Trek. You can see in the way their uniforms looks. Buick Starpoon himself is basically a parody of Duke from G.I. Joe, Han Solo, and Captain Kirk. He's an arrogant, like that. But the rest of his team, the Wild Rangers, as I said, him and his team are G.I. Joe parodies, which means they also have military specialties. If you know what G.I. Joes are, if you know what each G.I. Joe has, each G.I. Joe has a military specialty, special skills and abilities that allowed them to fight Cobra. Now, my characters also have military specialties as well, and I'll be listing them off as I tell you about the other members of the Wild Rangers. Over here, we have this guy with the mohawk in the darker blue uniform down here. His name is Roadhog. His military specialty is that he was part of the United States Army. He was a soldier. He then joined up with Buick Starpoon and now fights the Scumdogs. That's his specialty. All right. Then we have this bald guy with a gun down here in the lighter blue uniform. His name is Beach Pounder. His military specialty is that he's a Marine. Then we have this guy back here in the red uniform firing off his in that heavy vehicle, firing off his missiles and stuff like that. His name is Blast Tank. His military specialty is that he's a heavy vehicle specialist, a tanker. Do you get the joke here? How he actually has a special skill, and if you compare him to the other members of the Wild Rangers, how that special skill seems to be actually special, and instead of just being who he is. Now this cover is one of 3 different variant covers you can back. Looks pretty good. Let's go over here and look at another member of the Wild Rangers, Girl Friday. Girl Friday is Buick Starpoon's second in command, and she is basically a parody on the Girl Friday archetype kind of character, if you see her name. A Girl Friday type character is basically a female soldier that's in love with her superior officer and follows him around like a little puppy. The joke here is Girl Friday is not in love with Buick Starpoon. She hates her superior officer and pretty much hates his guts. She was assigned as the Wild Rangers' second in command because, as I said, the Wild Rangers fight the Scum Dogs and save the universe, but they usually end up saving the universe by usually blowing up a bunch of stuff and basically decimating the surrounding area and doing a lot of collateral damage, which pisses a lot of people off. So her superiors and Space Forces were getting a lot of flack for what the Wild Rangers were doing, and assigned Girl Friday to basically babysit the team, and she hates Buick Starpoon's guts. Here we have Death Mug's henchmen, because in all 80s cartoons, every cartoon villain would always have henchmen who would do his bidding, and they'd usually be complete morons. These are my morons. The big fat pink guy down here with shape-shifting powers is Sloppy, and the blue guy up here with the top hat is Murder Mouth. These guys are basically a parody of Bebop and Rocksteady from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Your classic examples of cartoon buffoonery and moronic villains and stuff like that. The classic villain archetypes. And they're going to be fun they're going to love these guys when you read about them. Now we'll look at Hair Middle Doctor. Hair Middle Doctor is another member of the Scum Dogs. As you see, unlike the other Scum Dogs, he's not a monster. That's because he was hired by Death Mug to be his mad scientist. Hair Metal Doctor here is a parody of a character from G.I. Joe known as Dr. Mindbender, a mad scientist. But my mad scientist has been crossed over with a hair metal musician, because that's awesome. He thinks of all the gadgets and machines the Scum Dogs use to try and take over the universe. And here we have Miss Breasty Melons, who's another member of the Scum Dogs. She's basically a parody of a character from G.I. Joe known as the Baroness, one of those femme fatale female spy characters who are always competent and always know what they're doing. The joke here is that Miss Breasty Melons is basically a dumb blonde from California. She was a rich CEO and owner of her own company who was basically bored with her life and joined up with the Scum Dogs and be a villain for fun. All right, tell you about my ideas and characters here. Give you an idea there. Let me exit out of here. Now, we'll go over here and look at Indiegogo real quick. All right, and have some fun. Let me go down here and show off a few books. Let me see here. Let's see. Ooh, I can't seem to find it. Let me do this. Just a moment, folks. Oh, by the way, folks, please go and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Read Comics They're Bad For You. The there and the title is misspelled. It's T-H-E-R-E. If you want to watch the stream again as soon as it's done being made, go to past live streams, or you can use the link on the pinned tweet on my Twitter page, which is at 777 MegaChris1. That's at 777 MegaChris1. Or you can use as well as hit that like button for me, as well as hit that notification bell and, hit the part of the notification bell that will give you all future notifications. And please share this video out on Twitter and Facebook. Let me go down here. I'm trying to find a certain Indiegogo before we do anything else. I'm trying to find it. Let me get it up here. Let me see here. I guess I can just go. I thought it'd be easier than this. Always go down here. All right, I'm just going to do this. Thin Blue Line. Here we are. Thin Blue Line, Mike Barron's new book. It's made $22,596. Yeah, it's got 18 days left and looks great, folks. You can back this book for the digital version for $10, or you can get the print version for $25. I want to get the print version. This book is 56 full color pages, proudly printed in the USA. Let's go look at this trailer now.
Beginning with issue number 1, Mike Barron wrote Marvel's The Punisher for over 5 years, approaching it as a straight crime comic, without any superheroes, aliens, or robots. Over the course of 60 issues, Barron elevated the gritty anti-hero into one of the most popular and enduring characters in the Marvel Comics universe. Now he brings that same ultra-realistic intensity to his latest graphic novel, Thin Blue Line. In the middle of a long, hot summer, a police shooting ignites the city. Activists, opportunists, and provocateurs descend to riot, loot, burn, and kill. Thin Blue Line follows Officer Valeria Baca and her partner as their detail guarding the mayor turns into a battle for survival. Ride along on this harrowing tale of two brave law enforcement officers fighting for their community and their own survival in a world gone mad. Eisner winner Mike Barron has created an alarming tale that unflinchingly examines human fallibility on every level. Along with penciler Joe Arnold, himself a full-time police officer, and talented anchor Jeff Slemons, they've created a moving and entertaining story ripped straight from today's headlines. Thin Blue Line exposes the defund the police movement and its consequences for society, but several comic book companies have refused to publish it. Now we're asking you to join the effort to distribute it independently and help support the men and women of law enforcement. Get your copy of the only graphic novel to offer an unflinching and not always flattering look at the men and women of law enforcement during a time when we need them the most. Not all heroes wear capes.
That was Thin Blue Line, folks. Go back it. It's Mike Barron's new book. You can back it for $25. This book looks great, folks. All right, we've been at this a little bit. I think now we'll go over here and look at Astral Travel. We're going to be talking about that tonight and having some fun, folks. Talking about the mysterious phenomenon of it. Truly bizarre accounts of astral travel to other worlds. Should I start with this, or maybe I should just look at an article on just astral travel itself? Mysterious people and outlandish tales of interplanetary travel. Let's see. Trying to find it like that. Maybe I should. These are basically just articles on various things with astral travel, which is talking about it. I think maybe I should go over here and just talk about astral. Just find an article on talking about astral travel itself before you look at individual articles. So, what is astral travel? Parapsychology. Let's go look at this. Let me do this right here. Get this up here. Like this. Let's see. Let me go back over here. Feel free to leave me a few chats, folks, because I want to hear your ideas. Hit that like button for me as well. What is astral travel? What is astral travel? Is astral travel real? Can a man go out of his get out of himself, his spirit and stuff? Can his spirit leave him and basically travel around? Astral travel has been handled separately in parapsychology and metaphysics. In parapsychology, astral travel is defined as out-of-body experiences or out-of-body travel. In the metaphysics, it is expressed as consciousness projection. What we know is the closest parapsychological approach to the definition of out-of-body travel, because the concept of consciousness projection is not enough to define precisely the extracellular travel. The projection relates to the transmission of an image to another point, which will be more clearly understood when diversifying the astral journey below. The travel of this material, which is made up of two basic parts, is matter and substance beyond the material body. By going beyond the material body is defined as astral travel, i.e. non-physical travels. However, until this point, the different layers in the human cause fallacies and the images in the unconsciousness and the mind can be confused with real astral travel experience. What is astral travel? What is it really? What is astral travel for an item-based science? science, the answer to the question will always be never possible, because the criteria for the evaluation of substance science are material. He cannot accept anything that exists beyond substance. For astral travel science, because really, and that might be an idiotic thing to actually think about, because reality acquisitions are based solely on sense organs. It cannot be proved, observed, or evaluated. To question the reality of phenomena such as astral travel, you need to go beyond the criteria of existing science. You can start with dreams about the reality of astral travel. Perhaps it will be simple, but dreams are among the greatest evidence of the soul and the super life. It has no bound with the substance. We do not perceive anything that we perceive in the dream with our sense organs. In your dream, when you cut your hand with a knife, you will feel burned. You feel the pain, but in fact, your hand has not been cut. When you enter the environment for the first time, you remember that environment you have never seen before. A moment in your life you've seen the feelings you've seen before, and examples can be increased. But I do not want to extend too much, because our subject is not reality and proof of the soul. In short, if you believe in the existence of the spirit, energy, body, you know that the extra physical journey is possible. Even if you believe that, well, I guess physical sciences won't basically accept the reality of astral projection, I guess. Well, maybe. I have my doubts, but probably. I mean, it's up there and stuff like that. When you talk about this stuff, let's get back to this article. The extra-physical journey is possible even if you believe that there is a boundless spirit within the boundaries of certain divine rules in time and space, because a substance without a substance can be bonded with a substance but cannot be convicted. Only the substance can limit her ties. What is astral travel? Astral travel floors, astral travel types. It is the astral travel floors that lead to questioning the reality of the astral journey. Each image is not real. The human brain is like a small copy of the universe and has a tremendous viewing capacity. This is the main reason for the misconceptions about astral travel. Most of the astral travelers are engaged in images, such as images created by the subconsciousness after each command under hypnosis, without expressing a real exit experience. How can we understand the reality of the spiritual journeys called astral travel? Let's discuss this subject by seeing the types of astral travel. 1. First phase in astral travel. First phase in astral travel. What is astral travel in the first place? In fact, no real astral travel is made at this stage. All the images that appear are revealed by the acquisitions of the subconsciousness. Just like someone under hypnosis, what have you been to Istanbul now? In response to the images he has acquired and information he has acquired in his mind, the person does not actually go mentally anywhere, but just follows the images that occur in his mind. Most of those who claim to be traveling in the astral are at this point and are actually roaming in their own inner world. Similar images occur under hypnosis in the post-meditation trance, and when we dive into our inner world, most of the dreams are related to this stage. A consciousness dream can be seen, but it occurs with the effect of the subconsciousness on the resulting images. Very short periods of sudden exits and the return of consciousness that leads to the return. How can we understand the reality of astral travel? If you are curious, maybe I should just do this. If you are curious about the reality of your journey, you can do a simple experiment before you start working upon. Open the pages of a book randomly in another room. Do not look at the page numbers. During the run, scroll to the page and look at the page numbers and the pages. Compare the information after the study. Second phase in astral travel. What is astral travel in the second stage? It is a real travel beyond the article. The matter is the fact that the body is fully out of the body, and that appeared the majority of those who were stuck in the previous phase actually stopped working before they could come to this point by emphasizing that astral travel is not real. What is that? Let me reread that again. What is astral travel in the second stage? It is a real travel beyond the article. The matter is the fact that the body is fully out of the body, and that appear. The majority of those who were stuck in the previous phase actually stopped working before they could come to this point. Before emphasizing the astral travel. Due to the work carried out, it is easy to move from astonishing dream to astral travel very easily. According to the first stage, it takes longer to reach and is also necessary to dress the body, which we can call a delicious dressage, because it is necessary to destroy the supremacy of matter over the soul. In order to be able to establish a full contact with the soul from the substance body. To do this, in a modern way of dieting, working through the chakras, natural and animal foods away from the vegetation and weight gain of food. We can also explain dreams are intertwined with the realm of mana, and dreams are often displayed consciously, and future images can be captured several times. However, because these images take place in a variable fate, life should not be shaped accordingly. This is frequently experienced in the pure and clean phase of human contamination, which is not contaminated with matter. In childhood, close to the recall phase, the human being integrates with the world and moves away from his soul. That is to say, he moves away from the phase as he becomes integrated with the substance body. Third phase, an astral travel. What is astral travel in the third phase? The former expression "tai mekan" that play. I guess let me read that again. What is astral travel in the third phase? Former expression "tai mekan." The place is a journey that can be made physically in places that are very different from the item size. It is a travel which is not possible with normal everyday worldly life. In order to transcend the matter and to be able to navigate both levels of the spiritual floors, it is necessary to pass through the stages of materialization and dematerialization. There are those who come to this point both in the Islamic world and in the Western cultures through living outside the worldly life. Life is treated in its entirety. The real reality is seen as all life is fully explored. It is possible to go back and forth. Astral traveling, astral classification. Astral classification. When the consciousness of the astral trip is included, we can classify as astral travelers. In general, those who think that they are doing astral travel and those who experience between them. Astral travel is a concept that is always referred to with the question marks, for those who have not done it consciously. Because it is not possible to make sure of its reality unless the second phase is passed. Then conscious travels experienced at different times. The long-term coma experiences can be characterized as astral travels. Long-term astral travel experience, and long-term astral travel experience. In these cases, the consciousness is usually closed. However, they experience the environments in which they exist as well as the different environments while the bodies remain motionless. Everything they tell is verified and recorded. One of these events happened in a hospital where he was treated. One of these events happened in the hospital where he was treated in the UK by Tom Kinnard, 60, and published in the Daily Mail. When Kinnard stayed in the hospital for 3 days in a coma, it was later confirmed. Can anyone make astral travel? Every man with a soul can do astral travel. The criterion is the difference in the duration of success. If a person with a psychic sensibility can achieve it in a month, this period may be longer for those who have low sensitivity, but it will be successful if it works. The main problem is the difficulties and the destruction of the spiritual laziness caused by the human brain, the realization of everything due to the simplicity of technology. All right. So that gives you an idea of what astral travel is, folks. We also have all these articles over here talking about different experiences of astral travel and stuff like that. Now we'll be looking at this. Truly bizarre accounts of astral travel to other worlds. Let's look at this, folks. Feel free to leave me a few chats, will you? I want to hear your ideas on astral travel. Hit that like button as well. For centuries, there have been the idea that the soul can exist independently of the body, and many practices and philosophies have sprouted up around the notion that we can intentionally cause this to happen. The basic concept behind what is called astral projection is that with enough trained focus, one can cultivate the ability to willfully eject their soul from their physical bodies and observe the physical world or other more spiritual realms free from the tethers of their earthly body. It's essentially like dying and having one's soul released only without the death part and the option to return back into one's physical body when the journey is complete. When disengaged from the body, it is claimed that the disembodied soul can travel vast distances, allowing us to see faraway places as if we are really there. Considering this would it be possible for someone to actually project into space or even other worlds and beyond, according to some very weird accounts? Yes. A basic idea among those who subscribe to the idea that astral projection is real, that there is no reason why one should not be possible to adventure up beyond our own planet. Apparently, it is totally possible, as an article in the Night Post explains. Outer space is technically still in the physical realm and as such subjects to the exploration via astral projection, but because outer space is vast beyond imagining, the distance traveled by astral projectors will vary depending on their focus and skill. Leading astral projection figures Robert Bryce and Robert Monroe both claim to have astral projected deep into space, seeing the celestial bodies that are part of our solar system. Of course, it is very difficult to concretely confirm whether or not what they are able to see is actually in the physical realm or simply a manifestation in the astral realm, because scientific instruments are not yet that advanced to accurately visually observe what astral projections see in detail. Okay, then, are you with us so far? Amazingly, there are reports of people projecting themselves to other worlds going way back. One of the earliest and weirdest of such reports is the cause of the Swedish philosopher, inventor, scientist, and mystic Emanuel Swedenborg claimed that in 1774 he had a potent spiritual awakening. During this time, he said he gained the power to, well, open his mind, to speak with angels or demons, and to make psychic journeys, an ability which he used to travel across heaven, hell, and the other parts of the solar system, not through the power of any technology, but through the power of God. All right. Swedenborg spectacularly claimed that he had been guided on this journey by God and angels, and that he saw many wondrous things in other parts of our universe. Among his many detailed accounts, some of the more interesting are that what he claimed to have been seen in our own solar system. He said that he had visited Mars, the Moon, Mercury, Saturn, Jupiter, and Venus, and that each of these places had their own unique civilizations. The Martians were described as being totally without body hair, and wearing tree bark for clothing. They apparently lived in a peaceful utopian society where there was no crime or war. On Venus, there was claimed to be two races of people: a benevolent, peaceful tribe and another dedicated to violence, war, and thievery. Saturn had its humble people who lived simple lives and buried their dead by covering the bodies with leaves. The people of Mercury were said to wear tight-fitting clothing and to be stern and serious, deep thinkers and philosophers, while the population of Jupiter were jovial jokesters and liked to, walk about on their hands. The moon was supposedly populated by a race of stout dwarves with booming voices, which Swedenborg would write. The inhabitants of the moon are small like children of 6 or 7 years old. At the same time, they have the strength of men like ourselves. The voice roll like thunder, and the sound proceeds from the belly, and because the moon is in quite a different atmosphere from the other planets. In 1884, there was an account of a medium referred to as Helene Smith in France, and whose story was written by a hypnotist and occultist Theodore Filoni. It was claimed that Miss Smith could go into a trance and project her consciousness to the planet Mars, where she would tell Filoni of the wondrous sights she was seeing there in real time. Filoni wrote of one such mind-boggling session as follows. From the beginning, Millie Smith perceived in the distance and at a great height a bright light that she felt a tremor, which which almost caused her heart to cease beating, after which it seemed to her as though seemed to the seemed to her as though her head was empty, and if she were no longer in the body, she found herself in a dense fog. Which she found herself in a dense fog, which changed successively from blue to a vivid rose color to gray and then to black. She is a floating, she says, and the table supporting itself on one leg seemed to express a very curious floating movement. Then she sees a star growing larger, always larger, and become finally as large as our house. Helene feels that she is ascending. Then the table gives by raps, lamentary, which you have so desired, Millie Smith. Who had all been ill at ease, finds herself feeling better. She distinguishes 3 enormous globes, one of them very beautiful. Oh, what am I thinking? She asks, and the table replies, on a world, Mars. Helene then began a description of all the strange things which presented themselves to her view and caused her as much surprise as amusement. Carriages without horses or wheels, sparks as they glide by, houses with the fountains on the roof, a cradle having for curtains an angel made of iron with outstretched wings, etc. What seemed less strange were people exactly like the inhabitants of Earth, save for that both sexes wore the same costume formed of trousers, very simple and a long blouse drawn tight about the waist and decorated with various designs. The child in the candle was yeah. The child in the crib was exactly like our children, according to the sketch which Helene made from memory after the seance. Okay. We are struck by 2 points: the complete identity of the Martian world, taken in its chief points with the world in which we live, and its puerile originality and a host of minor details. One would say that it was the work of a young scholar to whom had been given the task of trying to invent a world as different as possible from ours, but real, and who had consciously applied themselves consensusly applied himself to, but loosening the reins of his childish fancy in regards of a multitude of minor points in the limits of what appeared admissible according to his short and narrow experience. All the traits that I discovered in the author of the Martian romances can be summed up in a single phrase: its profoundly infantile character. Okay. It's all very strange indeed, and she would make meticulous notes and sketches of what she saw during these enigmatic excursions. Indeed, so detailed were her accounts that she was even supposedly able to translate the Martian language into French, and that the language has an acoustic quality altogether its own due to the predominance of certain sounds and has a peculiar intonation different to describe Flannery was obviously not impressed, though, taking it all to be quite delusional. In 1898, 2 Victorian occultists, stockbroker and second-generation spiritualist by the name Frederick Lee Gardner and a theater manager named Annie Harmonman, both of whom were involved in the occult movement called the Golden Dawn, and both of whom thought they had what it took to project astrally to other worlds, got together to do just that. They would claim that over the course of many sessions, they were able to travel all over the solar system and carry winged and armored men on Saturn, a grayness of dust and cobwebs, and a strong atmosphere of illusion on Jupiter, and various other wonders on Venus, Mars, Mercury, the only limit being that they seemed unable to travel to the sun. Okay. As I said, folks, leave me a few articles, or rather chats. I want to hear your ideas on all of this. This is all very interesting. Such fanciful claims continue into the 1900s, and one of these was organized by another member of the Golden Dawn named Dorothea Hunter. This time, their destination, the planet Mars. In December of 1900, they gathered at a flat and began this ceremony, which involved hexagrams, incantations, and visualization exercises. The Hunter would write of this ritual. We sat in a semicircle to the north side of the altar, facing the south when Mars was in Virgo at the time. Diodate then made the invoking hexagrams of Mars. We then mentally formulated the hexagon of Mars in red light at the point of the compass. The upper triangle appeared. Well, the upper triangle appeared, flaming, and an armored figure of somewhat earthly type appeared to look through it. We did not stop to examine the figure much, but went through the hex astrally and found ourselves in a region of flames where a gigantic mail-clad angel appeared with a winged helmet and a great flame-colored wings from his shoulders. There was some diversity of opinion concerning his sword. Then we deliberated the names and rose in what we thought at first was a blade-shaped shaft of white light. We seem to have been led through the path of Mars into a solar plane. All the planets are but rays or differentiations of the sun. It is true, but some special teaching was evidently to be given us by this object transition from Mars. Okay. All right. Mars was apparently a popular destination for astral projection during the era. It would seem to be in the early 1900s. There were also the reported 1906 psychic journey of Sackville G. Larson, who happened to be a president of the Society of Psychical Research at the time. Though astral projection, Larson and as said he had managed to travel to Mars, which he gave quite a detailed description of. According to Larson, the landscape was perpetually shrouded in red cloud and mist, and that there was an odd substance like snow that often fell, but much was not cold and that made the ground soft. All right. He said that the planet was populated by two different races, beings with vastly different physical appearances. One was a race of hulking giants covered in hair who towered over him and had a single eye in the middle of their foreheads. Elephant-like ears and noses of a lion who lived in a rock hut above the ground. There was also claimed to be a smaller race of dwarves, but who only came up to Layson's knee. These diminutive creatures were supposedly lived in underground layers and had webbed hands and feet, a fish-like face with no nose, bulbous eyes on the sides of their heads, and the ability to scale sheer walls like an insect. It was widely believed that this report was likely a piece of creative journalism, and it's certainly strange enough to warrant mention. All right. There are many such reports from the 20th century, and concerning the very outlandish descriptions that we know to be false, it seems that this is almost merely be the wild imaginings of a time before we had the technology to understand our solar system, mixed with the pervasive popularity of the occult and spirit mediumship of the area. Yet such wild tales of astral travel to other worlds have persisted well into the modern day as well. One practitioner of astral projection named Monal Breyer gives a typical bonkers account of this, claiming to have traveled to Mars and Jupiter in 1975 to 1976. In 1977, Breyer claims that his excursion to Jupiter was carried out in August of 1977, and he makes it very clear that these observations were made before Voyager 2 passed the plane of Jupiter, he would say. There is a preponderance of yellow and purple colors in the sky of the sky of the Jupiter. No other color was seen in the sky of Jupiter. There was a greenish shade in the yellow, which was in the sky. The clouds were of the purple color. They were gathering together rapidly and disappearing rapidly. These clouds were quite thick, having greater density and compared to our clouds. They move just like moss and water. If we throw a stone in the pond, this moss quickly moves away and quickly comes together, and similar to the movements of the clouds of the Jupiter. On the Jupiter, there was a dim light similar to the light present in Marshashita about 7:30 p.m. Then, Marsh something at 7:30. in the month of September, I did not see the sun there. The sky on the Jupiter was not like ours, but it was darkish. I saw 3 full moons in the sky, situated like the sign, and therefore in mathematics. It appeared like a triangle of the moons, and I saw 4 full moons at the time, as if a square of the moons, and formed their eye. I saw many moons, about 5 to 6 at a time, but all were half moons. On my right hand was their lighted half portion of what, while on my left hand was their dark half region. The moons were shining considerably less than our moon, and were similar in size than our moon, about 3/4 the diameter of our moon. I saw a band of multiple black round bodies in the sky. It is shown in the figure like a scorpion. All right, how much more of this is left? Oh, quite a bit left. Okay, maybe not that much left. All right. In my previous experiment on Mars, I felt that I was I felt that I was standing on the ground of the Mars, but this time I could not feel that I was standing on the ground. The Jupiter, I felt that I was floating. There was a black rock. There was no dust. There was no breeze of the wind. There was no sound of any kind. There was no beauty seen in the sky as I saw in the sky of the Mars. So I did not feel enthusiastic and happy. On the contrary, I felt depressed and morose. On the Jupiter, there was no water running or stagnant. There was no human, no beast, no bird, no insect, no plant, and no other life. I could not see any astral body on the Jupiter. All right. This particular account was apparently published in various newspapers in India, as the Indian Express and Turan Bharat, among others, and the witnesses claimed to have sent his amazing results to the Indian Prime Minister on the 27th of October 1977 and received receipts as proof. Is there any truth to it? Who knows? More recent and perhaps even more bizarre had been to various other planets, sometimes far from the Earth, because I don't want them here. Oh, well. Sorry, that's the idea came at me. Let me reread that part. In October 1977, received receipts of proof. Is there any truth to it? Who knows? More recent and perhaps even more bizarre is the poster of Al Quora, who claimed in 2018 thread that for years he had been to various planets, sometimes far in the past, and through astral projection. He says of this. Okay. My journey to the other planets began years ago when I woke one night in the soul body to find an olive-complexioned, Asian-looking monk, tan robe, standing in my bedroom. He asked me to come with him and then vanished into a hole in the ceiling, leaving my physical body behind. I followed and saw him flying up what looked like a fluorescent tube or tunnel. About midway up the tunnel, gravity seemed to reverse, and we dropped down on the starlit surface of an astral planet. When I uttered surprise at how Mars and how bright the stars were, my guide explained that the planet was Mars, and that stars were my guide. My guide explained that the planet was Mars, and the other brightnesses was due to its very thin atmosphere. Okay. We were standing in a desert landscape with the arid plains in the foreground and dark mountain ranges in the distance. The monk pointed across the rock-strewn plain where hooded figures in brown or tan robes were being chased by soldiers in jeep-like vehicles. Jeep-like vehicles, huh? The robed monks appeared to be heavily outnumbered and outgunned. Many were shot and killed by their pursuers, while only a few made it to the safety in the mountains. My guide affirmed me that the monks were freedom fighters struggling against the tyranny of the ruling class. From my position in orbit, I sent out telepathic call to all my friends, souls on the surface below who might want to assist me. All right. Soon I behold many soul forms ascending rapidly from below, gathering a great swarm around me. When all who went to come were present, we began chanting the word HU, which is a powerful mantra to connect us to the sound current with the power of HU behind behind us and within us. We accelerate out into space to our destination. From one part I have been to the moon in the soul body of several occasions and have never found any signs of life there. It was just as airless and barren for me as it was for the Apollo astronauts when they physically set foot on it. What, no moon, city, and dwarves? Adding to the overall weirdness is another recent account from a witness named Leon McLaren, who claimed that he can also travel to other worlds through astral projection, even planets that we know of nothing. In this case, he claims to have been to the ominous and mysterious planet Nibiru, a theoretical planet which some paranormal enthusiasts argue will at one point collide with Earth to cause a massive extinction event cataclysm. Yet, according to the witness, it seems like an all right place for the most part, he claims. At one stall, I met two humanoid spirit guides who invited me to join them on a short journey to the Sirius constellation, within which took about 10 minutes each way. There is no speed limit on astral travel where we landed on planet Nibiru, which was lit by three coronated suns, Sirius A, B, and C. When one sun set, the next in signals rose, so the planet was never in darkness. Nibiruans chosen from Earth humans who have qualified and shown themselves worthy of immortality. Worthy of immortality, as there is no such thing as death in Nibiru. The only option for any spirits who are getting unduly bored and with eternal life is to return to Earth for another cycle of reincarnations until they can again work their passage and can qualify for transfer to a higher plane. Well, I guess. But of the test for life on Nibiru is to convince the assessment panel that you embrace the Quaker tradition of pacifist lifestyle. As on Nibiru, there are no armed forces. Death is not an option. There is no police forces. There are no crime. There are no medical facilities, nurses, doctors, or hospitals. As no one ever gets injured or falls sick. Everyone arrives in Nibiru with a comprehensive education. So no schools, colleges, or universities with their associated stresses on arrival. My two spirit guides logged me into the visitors book, and we started our tour. Clothes are optional, as it is a very comfortable climate. We walked forward along a path into a freshwater lake, having fully functioning gills, lungs. There are no risk of drowning. I stroked a fish on the style of a dolphin and lay on its back while it took me on a tour of the lake. I noticed that the aircraft were solar powered, with having limitless light. Speedboats derive their power from the water and the use of dissimilar metals. All parachutists landed safely, so no broken ankles, and they were able to walk away from every landing. All food options were vegetation. It is my choice of planet. If I mention a good record for the remainder of this incarnation, I've had quite enough of the way things are going on this plane. Even it is relatively civilized compared to the lower, darker planes. Okay. What in the world is any of this remotely even plausible, or have we derailed completely off the deep end? All of these accounts seem to go far out beyond the ordinary, and while colorful and certainly interesting, one is left to try and figure out what to make of it all. Is there anything to the idea that one can travel out beyond the physical form or to reach space and other planets, or is this all a bunch of mumbo jumbo that has no basis in reality? These tales seem to offer no proof either way and remain just as entertaining and curious anecdotes, leaving the whole concept quite an outlandish trip into the bizarre that will probably not have any sensible conclusion that we can all relate to at all. All right. Very interesting. We got a few more articles here. The Mysterious Order of the Astral Projecting Witch Hunters. We could look at that. Astral sex, the latest thing of out-of-body experiences. Bizarre cases of real-life time travelers. All right, how much of this article is there in this one? All right, might be too much because this don't have that much time left in. What do you think about the astral projection, folks? Is it possible? We looked at a few articles tonight. Hey, here's a guy that looks like a Nicolas Cage. I think maybe I'll go to a smaller article. Piloting the astral plane was Amelia Earhart's last message of psychic SOS. The strange tale of the Bunker's UFO cult. A Nobel Prize-winning biochemist encounters an alien glowing talking raccoon. That's the moment, folks, where we're trying to find an article that we can look at. The amazing story of Ray Palmer's psychic healing. Seeing double, strange cases of bilocation. The mystical world of the mysterious books of magic. Interesting. Go back over here. Students tell the Bunker's UFO cult. The bizarre adventures of the mystical Madame Blavatsky. All right. Joe consistently talks about aliens and time travel. The mysterious order of the astral projecting witch hunters. Maybe we'll look at this. Depends on how long this article is. Looks awful long, folks. But what do you think about astral projection, huh? So let's get into this article. The years between 1575 and 1650 were a dark time for Europe, and certainly a bad time to be a witch. This is the peak of the early modern witch trials, during which suspected witches were mercilessly persecuted, and tens of thousands of people were executed as practitioners of witchcraft and black magic, a time of inquisitors, witch hunts, torture, and people often condemned to death with little or no trial at all. Between 1580 and 1630 alone, it was estimated that over 50,000 people were put to death on charges of witchcraft in one area where these witch trials were in full effect was in the country of Italy. It is here in the remote Friuli district of northeastern Italy that inquisitors would uncover a new type of witch that they had never seen before, a secretive order which had a tradition thought to go back centuries and which was permeated by all manner of strange powers and abilities and rites. Okay. Beginning in 1575, church authorities started to investigate rumors of a shabby cult that resided in the rural areas of the Friuli region, said by locals to have strange powers and beliefs that had not been seen before. Here it is said that there was a cabal of reclusive magic users who were called the Benedeni, which means good walkers, and who were supposedly tasked with doing battle with an evil witches, protect the populace from their evil magic. Constitutions. Damn it, good work. Who were supposedly tasked with doing battle with evil witches, who protect the populace from their evil magic. According to the traditions, these Benedenti could be male or female, and we were marked from birth by the presence of. Keep losing my place here, folks. Who were supposed tasked with doing like the traditions of Benetti could be male or female, were marked from birth by the presence of an embryonic sac on their head called a cool, which in many traditions was always seen as a sign of supernatural powers for the Benedicti. So important that the cools were sometimes made into powerful charms and amulets. Those chosen would, upon reaching adulthood, be recruited into the order and gain the ability to travel out of their bodies at night, riding on the backs of various animals and even shapeshifting to various forms in order to hunt down malicious witches, which they call the Mulandanti. The Mulandali. Mulans. mostly for the purpose of protecting their harvest from the withering black magic they used to blight them. Okay, how much more of this is left? Okay, maybe not that much more. All right. These nighttime astral travelers. Yeah. Let me reread that. These nighttime astral travelers were carried out on what were called the Ember Days, which denote the changing of the seasons marked by the solstice and equinoxes, and almost always on Thursdays. They would ride out of these spiritual excursions upon cocks and goats, and upon finding a coven of malevolent witches, they would engage in fierce combat with the bear and Dante, supposedly using as weapons tight bundles of fennel, which were known for their healing and purification properties, while the Melendenti fought with sorghum stalks, later to be associated with the broomsticks. If the Benedicti were successful in their fight, there would be good crops for the rest of the year, and they would return victorious while asking the maybe. Very interesting, huh? Let me get back to this part where the Millennium fighting stop. Later, yeah. If the Benedicti were successful in their fight, there would be good crops for the rest of the year, and they would return victorious while asking the local people for the clean water and wine, and they would often partake of great victory feasts. If they failed, it meant famine, pestilence, and woe. It is very important that they return to their bodies by a certain hour, usually said to be before the first rooster's crow, and it was said that if they did not, then they would face the possibility of not being able to enter the physical form again, doomed to wander the earth as an incorporeal spirit until the husk of their physical body died. It is important to note that this out-of-body travel was not seen as just mere superstition or allegory, but was actually believed to be a literal fact that they actually performed. Besides this ability to astral project from their bodies, the Benedicti were also known in this region as powerful healers, often sought out for talismans or amulets for the purpose of healing the sick and handicapped, or driving out spiritual possessions. It was said that when a witch chose to curse someone with sickness to try to possess their bodies, the Benedicti were the first people they turned to, and mostly it seemed as if they were anti-witch and benevolent force for good. The Benedicti considered themselves to be warriors of good, the enemy of evil, witches, and indeed the devil himself. And they saw themselves as the bringers of prosperity and plenitude to the people, defenders of harvest and fertility fields. However, with some amazing magical claims, they definitely came up to the church's radar, and at first it was not known exactly how to proceed on how or how these Benedicti should be dealt with. It was simply something they'd seen before. There's something they'd seen before at the time the church decided not to actively pursue the matter, as they did not seem to be any devil worshippers or witches' Sabbaths involved, and no defilement or sacrament. So it was chalked up to a mere local folklore and pagan superstitions, but this would change. In 1580, an inquisitor by the name of Felice di Montesego dusted off the Benedicti case and decided to look into it. Further, to this end, he traveled to the region and began a series of interrogations of suspected or admitted Benedicti. He would learn of other abilities that some of them claimed to have, such as speaking with the dead, seeing ghosts, and even communicating with angels. And this led the Benedicti began to believe that they were indeed heretical and possibly satanic. After all, he began to do whatever he could to twist and testimonies to fit this new conclusion, claiming that these angels and ghosts were actually a devil in disguise, and even began paying their activities to look very much like witches' Sabbaths. He even, under intention and questioning, managed to get several Benedicti to admit that it was possible that they were being led astray by the devil, which only strengthened his resolve that their cult was no better than the witches they claimed to fight. In his mind, all of this talk of nightly spiritual travel of the soul leaving the body, the shape-shifting conversations with the dead, and other mystical abilities were far more sinister than mere folk traditions, especially since most Benedicti were adamant that they could really do these things. Due to his interrogations, several Benedicti were labeled heretics and imprisoned, despite them insisting that they were doing the work of God, and this was to be the beginning of the end for the good walkers. How much more of this? Not that much more. Largely fueled by Montengo's largely fueled by Montefecto's testimony by the guys guy's statement, the Catholic Church and its inquisitors began to increasingly link the Benedetti to witches to the point that they became nearly synonymous. Indeed, the 1600s inquisitors were getting better at forcing the Benedetti to admit to more ominous practices such as devil worship or desecration or religious symbols, in general anti-Christian debauchery. Although most of the time the accused strangely denied this and complained of being tricked into these admissions. Luckily for them, the church never did fully bring down their wrath upon the Benedetti, and while they were certainly prosecuted and punished, the general skepticism and witchcraft that was spreading at the time added to their rarity, and in the fact that the inquisitors were still not quite sure what to make of them meant that they were in the end mostly able to avoid the full brunt of the Inquisition and were forgotten to fade back into obscurity. By the end of the 17th century, the Benedetti seemed to have disappeared altogether. It would not be until the 1960s that the Italian historian Carlo delved into this historical oddity when her went through the old trial records and compiled a book of the Benedetti called The Night of Battles, Witchcraft and Agrarian Cults in the 16th and 17th centuries, in which he postulates that they were the descendants of an ancient pre-Christian fertility cult. In the end, the Benedetti have served fading into history to be forgotten in the midst of time. Who were these mysterious people who allegedly went out in the night to do spectral battle with the forces of evil, and could they ever actually do any of the things they claimed? What was their real relation to witchcraft, and where did they originate from? It is an intriguing little piece of history to think that this secretive cult will remain hidden, going about their witch-fighting work and go to battle against the forces of evil, only to attract the air of the church and disappear into nothingness. Whoever they were, the Benedetti have become a curious historical oddity that we will perhaps never understand. Okay, folks. I hope you could understand that. I went pretty fast through that thing, but hopefully I read that pretty well to you. I wanted to get this video done in an hour. We looked at astral projection night, and we talked about it, what it is. We talked about a few stories about various things we talked about various people who could do it, and we had some fun tonight, didn't we, folks? But this live stream is coming to an end, so please go and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Read Comics They're Bad For You. Remember that there is misspelled. It's THERE. It'll take you directly to my channel, Read Comics They're Bad For You. You can watch this live stream again by going to past live streams on my channel, or use the link on the pinned tweet on my Twitter page at 777 MegaChris1. That's at 777 MegaChris1. Make sure you're still subscribed. Leave some comments down below. Hit that like button because it helps me fight the algorithm. Hit that notification bell for all. Hit that notification bell. Hit that part of the notification bell to give you all future notifications. Please go and share this video out as well. Yeah, please go share this video. Remember, folks, go and subscribe to the YouTube channels Stitch Together Pics, Robot Co-op, and Creepy Little Book. And remember, folks, I'll be back again tomorrow for another live stream around 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock p.m. or maybe 8, 9, or 10 o'clock p.m. for another live stream. So be sure to come back. I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kennel. Thank you all.